Welcome to our weekly team call. And I'm just going to keep saying this all night. Happy Fruit Punch Energize Day. If you guys weren't aware, the new flavor of Energize launch, which is one of the first exciting launches that we have of 2019. Transform 20 came out. Fruit Punch Energize came out today. And I'm just going to touch on this really quick before we dive into branding and rebranding. Hopefully everybody here uses the performance line. It is a super important part of what we do. And even if it's not, like, I was really skeptical. I actually used E&E, but I didn't use the whole performance line for a really long time. Or I just used Energize, or I didn't want to switch over, whatever. But the thing is, I like to remember that it's part of the vital behaviors. You're not just doing it for you, you're doing it to help other people. And it's important to share about these things because it shows people, like, one, pre-workouts are really disturbing. If you ever look at the ingredient list or and just Google some of the ingredients on C4 or any of the go-to pre-workouts that people drink, it's disturbing, let alone if you take them yourself and you feel like you're going to have a heart attack. You're like, this is a normal. Why are most of the population using this as their go-to pre-workout? So it's really important to use and to share the benefits and why our pre-workout is so amazing at being plant-based and all the things that it is clean and it has good ingredients. And it's just helping people replace junk and giving them healthy alternative options. And it helps your performance. I know it makes a big difference in my workouts, and I'm a big fan of it. I know later this year, I'm pretty sure they're going to be launching a vegan recover or a dairy-free option for that. They've hinted at it. They also only advise you to use most pre-workouts for a limited time. Scary. Yeah, there's so many weird warnings on that stuff. But I look at my little brothers and I'm always disturbed. I'm like, what's in his stuff? But anyways, so they've hinted at that coming out later this year. And so Beachbody's always creating new supplements and new things to help people get better results and increase their results. So it's really important that you get behind the launches so you can help other people. I love the current Energized flavor, but I'm also stoked for a new flavor too. So I just want to touch on that and make sure everybody knew that was happening. So tonight's call is all about branding or rebranding. Some of you guys are newer coaches and some of you guys have been around for a while. And one thing that you have to do in this business is you constantly have to be growing. You constantly have to change. You constantly have to look at what you're doing and see if there's a better way to get your message across. And a big part of what we do as coaches is we have a brand. And because we are not Beachbody, Beachbody spends millions of dollars a year on marketing their programs. It's our job as coaches to market ourselves. And in order to do that and not just be like every other Beachbody coach, you have to have a solid brand, something that identifies you, something that differentiates you. And we kind of asked today what we wanted to talk about. And I know, Ari, you also mentioned you wanted to hear language, talking about language, and this ties in to your brand a lot too. So I had key points I wanted to go over, and we can go over questions at the end too. And we want to open this up and have a huge conversation, just everybody sharing what works for them. But something right now I'm personally rebranding because so many life changes and things are happening that I'm just, what's working for you now may not work for you 6 months from now. And somebody who I like to use and is an awesome example is if you look over Amy's social media for the past 5 years, you see how many different times her brand has changed. She's gone from vegan to paleo. She did high fat, low carb. And when she does these changes, her whole branding changes. And that's her messaging, the way she talks about things, but she always keeps Beachbody as a consistent part of that message. So it's important to make sure your brand is you, but it also revolves around what we do. So before jumping in to that discussion. I don't know if Amber has anything you want to add, and then I could go over the points that I wrote down just about branding.
I was muted. Yeah, sure. So I think Amy's a good example, but I also feel like she's still consistent in some ways, you know, like even no matter where she is, she's like beachy, boho, like there's certain things about her that are still her, but then over the years, she's like reinvented herself. And I just think it's important we're going to go into some, like, I think more key points to help maybe everyone kind of brainstorm like what they want to convey of their own branding, but it's really just like who you are. And so right now, like my branding is a lot more baby focused, and it's not like I had a baby and like want to be for business. It's just is my life. And so I'm making Beachbody fit in to that. And over the last 4 years, you know, I've talked a lot about being single. I trained at a gym like heavily and was like lifting heavy weights, but still, and was like all into that for like a good year, but I still talked about Beachbody workouts at home. You know, so I've had like things change for me, and like, I feel like it's important to remember like whatever your brand is and how you identify what that is how can you make that inspiring, and how can it help you relate to people, but how can you turn it into being inspiring? And Hannah she is on the call. Good. I was going to be like, I'm going to call her out and she's going to watch the recording. But she talked about like today on our post, like things that she's going through. And it's okay if you're going through hard times, you know, like if you are struggling with certain things in your life. But I feel like there's also a way that we can share that and also be inspiring. So I feel like that's something we need to like all work on. So it's not about being like rainbows and unicorns all the time, because we all go through hard things, but like how can we share what we're going through to be relatable and also bring it back to Beachbody? So yeah, I don't know if we're going to do an actual like branding exercise or what you had, Kate, but I just wanted to say real quick that it's not like you have to reinvent yourself and make shit up. You just have to like be willing to share different facets of your life in a way that can help you connect with other people.
So I just had some brand building steps that I just wanted to go over. And these are just basic things that we can talk about more. But it starts with defining your brand. So this goes back to Amber's, like what Amber said, your brand is who you are. So first and foremost, everybody has a reason why they're here, why you're a coach, why you are passionate about this. And it has to be more than wanting to help people. You have to like get into that nitty gritty reason why you show up. Because that is going to be the main thing that drives you. And something that you're going to hear over and over is people won't hop on board with what you're doing unless you know where you're going and why you're doing it. That's what a strong leader has. And so that's why it's really important to develop a brand. So when you're defining your brand, you want to figure out what you're promoting, and you're promoting yourself as a coach. But what your mission is. One thing that I've seen done a billion times, I didn't even write this down, but I think that's really helpful, is to create a mission statement for your business. And you can Google that. You can figure out some exercises. We could even talk about that on a different call. But like figuring out a mission statement for your business and what you really want, I think is a really powerful way of like getting back to your brand. So what you're trying to promote, who you want to connect with, and how you can use your brand to connect with people, because that's first and foremost. Your business is based off social media. Like that's not your whole business, and we've talked about this a lot this month. You can use a lot of like in-person interactions as well, but your social media is like your storefront. And so it's really important to have a strong brand. If you're like walking through the mall and you see this store and they had a bunch of different things going on, if it was messy and confusing, you wouldn't want to shop at that store. So you have to remember your business is your storefront. So it's important to know what you're promoting. And you're promoting challenge groups, you're promoting the coaching opportunity, you're promoting yourself and what you have to offer as a coach. You want to define who you're going to connect with and who are the people that you want to work with. And then you want to think about how to differentiate yourself from every other coach, because we're all different. We all have a different story. We all have a different background. Some of it may be similar, but what differentiates you from somebody else? And I know sometimes it's easy to be like, oh, well, my life is boring, or my life is whatever it is. But like, there is something that makes you you. And today I was just like looking through my old post. I was like, what can I share today? And I was like 10 things about myself. And it was kind of hard to like go through and write 10 things. And one thing that differentiates myself, and you guys all know it, is I'm loud. And I've had this conversation with people a lot, like people who know me or don't know me. They're like, you're loud, or your voice just carries. And that's just something like, I'm silly, I'm goofy, I say inappropriate things, but that's part of my brand. That's who I am. And I laugh at everything. And it's just like figuring out those little things that differentiate you. So that's number one, define your brand. Going back to like who or what you promote, who you're going to connect with, and how you differentiate from all the other coaches out in the network, because you don't just want to be another Beachbody coach. You want to be you. Number two is think of your brand as a person. And there's an actually really awesome exercise that we've talked about a million times over, but can be really helpful, which is Katie Hefner's branding exercise. And if you Google Katie Hefner branding exercise or Beachbody coach branding exercise, this will come up, and it helps you create an avatar, but getting really specific about who you want to work with. Thinking about beliefs, like your personal beliefs, your values, and your language and how you talk. I want to say this is really important. Amber and I speak a lot, like we speak similarly, but like we speak differently. And when I first started coaching, I thought, because my sister was like, this is a business, you have to change. Like you need to make sure your grammar is correct and your spelling's correct. And you need to put yourself out there as a businesswoman. And so I tried to speak really formally, and I over edited everything that I said, and that's just not me. So I wasn't connecting with the people who were most like-minded me. Like I do get people on my posts who are grammar Nazis and people who reach out to me, and those just aren't my people. Thankfully the people on our team like know this about me, like you're gonna get some spelling errors and stuff, and I'm not trying to be perfect, but it's like finding your voice and not trying to sound like everybody else, trying to find yourself. And while it's important to, number three, what I wanted to talk about was don't try to mimic every other coach. Like you can find influences from other coaches' brands, like Amy, Amber, me, so many top coaches, Meredith Ganal, Bree Headley, Danny Hopkins. Like you can look at what they're doing and you can get inspiration, but don't mimic word for word. Like don't plagiarize. Find a way to share it and make it your own and use your own language with it. That's like the biggest mistake I see from coaches. And it used to happen to me all the time. I don't see it as much anymore, but I would see a coach post something like Amy, or I've even seen it with myself, and then another coach on the team copy it, like do the same. If it was a selfie, they take a selfie with a similar pose and literally say the same exact thing. And it's like, that's not you. So it's like finding inspiration. Like I still look at Amy's post, and I look at Meredith Ganal, and I look at other top coaches in the network, and I see what they're doing, and I will find inspiration, and I'll maybe take notes, but then I find a way to share about it and make it my own. So the next point is like, what's driving your brand? Like, what's your purpose? So that goes back to your why and making sure you have a strong why, because that's your message. And this is why your brand evolves. Your brand's going to change over time. Your why is going to change. Your purpose is going to change, but just having that to come back to, I think, is really important. And then the next point is aim to build long-term relationships through your brand. So your social media is your storefront, and you're either building trust or you're not with that. So by showing up, by being consistent, by sharing an authentic message that sounds like you, and by being yourself, that's going to build trust, and that's going to build those long-term relationships. And that's, I think Amber is like the best at this, is like you are great at building those like that's what I see on your page, especially when you have shared so much about your pregnancy and just Violet, like you see those relationships in your posts. You see those relationships by the people showing up. And that's a really cool benefit from something that she's built over time. I don't know if you have anything you want to say to that, just because I know you're awesome at that.
Well, okay, I'm like, am I muted? Thank you. I think that I actually, real quick, I want to show you guys my branding exercise that I did like 4 years ago. That's still pretty much true. And I think it's in my coach training and it's in my coach training groups, but I'll just show it to you guys like an example in a second. But I think that helps me with like my storytelling a lot, because I'll look at that list, and sometimes if I'm uninspired, then like today, I don't really feel very cute. I like didn't leave the house like pretty much until like an hour ago, and I'm just been with the baby all day. So I just took a selfie and then was like, well, I guess I could talk about the coaching opportunity. So it's like, you can go down the list of like your branding ideas, or just, you know, it can kind of give you some inspiration of like what you can talk about, even if you don't have a cute, you know, like flashy image or something. And I think that because I share so much, I don't share everything, by the way, but I think I give the illusion that I share everything. And because I share enough of like the things that I want to share, I guess. And some of me share so much. I could never share that much, but I just choose to share certain things enough that I know will like speak to other people. And because and then that helps me like build relationships, you know, and sometimes there's a lot of back and forth chattering with people that never leads to a sale, but it's still community and networking and connection. And sometimes it does lead to a sale. And like, and I think that I just think it's one of the fun parts of social media, like not having that expectation that every single conversation and connection is going to turn into a sale, but it often breaks the ice and can turn into one, you know. So if say somebody messages me about Violet, or does like a heart eyes on my story, and then I saw that like we had talked about a challenge group before this happened today, and I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I never heard back from you about that challenge group. So then I was able to get a follow-up in, you know. So it's like, I think that, yeah. So anyways, so the more I share and the more vulnerable and the more I kind of stick to my brand, the more I have ways to talk to people that aren't just about health and fitness, even though I'm always kind of working that in. If that makes sense. Should I share that image right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do screen share. Okay, can you guys see it? It's like a picture of Ashley Simpson. Can you guys see it? I can't see everyone. Yeah? Okay. So I did this like 4 years ago, because I was like, okay, who am I? What do I want to talk about here? So it's like when I was like pretty much a new coach, and 25 to 45, you know, I've signed up people that are younger. I've signed up people that are older. This is just kind of like, who am I talking to when I'm doing my posts? And so it's kind of like me summed up. So artsy and fashionable, mom, or wants to be. But, you know, obviously I work with people that aren't these, you know, like they don't have to fall into these categories, but this is kind of like what my posts are about and like who I'm talking to. They work, they're busy, because when I first started, I was super busy. So I wanted to talk to the women out there that thought they didn't have time. That was very, very important to me. Because this is a business of helping people. This isn't just like, oh, how many sales can I get? This was actually like, who can I speak to and help? And I want to help the Ambers of the world, you know? So thinks she's already healthy, possibly overeats and doesn't eat enough. So like I had an idea that like I didn't eat that bad. But then when I started doing containers, I was like, I don't eat any vegetables. Like the iceberg on my burrito wasn't really a great vegetable source today. And that's all I had, you know, but because I didn't eat McDonald's or something, I thought I was like healthy. So I think anyways, I just wanted to elaborate on that. The people that think that maybe or I've talked to a lot of women that don't think that they need the meal plan, and then they do, because everybody does. Maybe they're interested in wellness or love wellness, interested in natural, eco-friendly products, travel or aspires to travel, used to party. That's a big one for me, because I used to not care about working out or exercise or eating healthy at all, because I just wanted to be social and drink and have a good time and relax. And I just wanted to party all the time. It comes from a broken home. That's me. So I talk about that sometimes. I should probably talk about it more. Self-made, hard worker, because those are people that are determined and will be good coaches. So that's obviously like a lot of times when I'm trying to, I made this in mind of like how I wanted to like get challengers, but really a lot of times your challengers are going to be your coaches too. So you should be branding yourself in a way where you're talking to both your potential customers and coaches. Wants to get healthy, doesn't know where to start, never been super active. Like for me, that was big because there's lots of people that used to, maybe they, used to play soccer, they played sports in school, and then they gained weight when they went into college. Like I want to talk to the people that like never worked out and like have that negative self-talk that they just aren't athletic, because that was me. Thinks Beachbody is a scam. So this is also good too, because you can kind of, this is like a whole nother subject, but addressing objections like already, because that was something that I think would have been like when I joined Kate, it wasn't because she was like Beachbody. She was talking about lifestyle and changes. But I think that if I had known it was just Beachbody off the bat, I might not have been into it, because I just, like people make assumptions about things. I didn't know anything about it, but I don't think I would have been as drawn to it. So I think it's important to kind of think that way. Remember like how you felt about like when you were introduced to this. And so I think that's important to think about. Has income to spend on health and fitness. I believe that everybody has, if you can afford groceries, then you can afford a Beachbody program. So I think that everyone can afford this, but it's definitely nice to work with people that you don't have to hear. So I, from the beginning, kind of knew that I wanted to work with people like me that had an income to spend on themselves, because like I had been, someone that had tried other diets and spent money on things. And I talked to so many women that have like wasted so much money on other diets or like juice cleanses or fasts and like weird things. So those are your people, or my people, because they have the money for this. So I think that's why I hear less money objections, because from the beginning, I've just been so like, I am dealing with people that want to invest in themselves. That's who I'm looking for. And so I don't get as many, I just kind of made this connection right now while I was reading this out loud, because I don't feel like I get as many money objections. And I think it's because of how I present it and talk about it and like talk about the value. Okay, finishing up here. Wants lifestyle change, not quick fix. That was me. Thinks Shakio sounds cheesy. That's another kind of objection. And then seeks community, because even though I had a lot of friends and I thought I had, community, I didn't have community with like health and fitness. So it was like something that I didn't know I was really looking for until I got into it. So, and I think that women in general look for community. So I think that is something we need to talk about a lot more, because I know that we're talking about our challenge groups and stuff, but the more we can talk about the other people that we're doing it with, and, our groups are just like sharing a picture of us on this call, that can also help you with like coach recruiting too.
So I love that. And you did that based off, I'm pretty sure that was off of Katie Hefner's thing, if that was 4 years ago. And so everybody, like I said, get off this call tonight and do that if you haven't. Even if you have, I think I'm going to revisit mine, because what I had 4 years ago isn't accurate, and I still have that list somewhere. But I think it's just really helpful to have that person in this branding exercise literally has you create a person in mind. Which helps for the next point I want to talk on, which is to speak to your customers and your people with a consistent message and tone of voice. So this goes back to language too, and making sure because already from the beginning, what you're promoting, who you're trying to connect with, and you're going to differentiate yourself from other people. So having a consistent message, making sure you're consistently talking about coaching, consistently talking about your challenge groups, consistently talking about healthy lifestyle and your message. But that's really goes back to the building the trust part of this and what's really going to help set you apart, and that just solidifies your brand. So make sure that you have consistent message and tone of voice. So again, that's going to change over time in talking about certain things, but overall you want to make sure that it all sounds like you. And then find key messages that create your brand identity. So that also goes back to that list, finding those core values and those things that you're looking for. So you're not talking about the same thing time and time again. Yes, you're talking about your challenge group, but you're finding different ways to identify with those things and identify with different people and share that message. So find key messages that create your brand identity and go back to what you're promoting, who you're trying to connect with, and what differentiates you. And that goes back to like your story. And then be innovative, be bold, and be daring. And the thing is, like, and it's also the next point of this, and like the final kind of step is like the old way doesn't always cut it. So your message, if something isn't working for you and you know it's not working and you're trying the same thing over and over, like the photos or the way you're talking about something, change it. You don't have to keep redoing the same thing. But that's why it's important to be innovative and always know that your brand's going to evolve. There's going to be different phases of your life and different times where you're going to have to talk about different things, or you're going to just be going through different things. And it's really important to be innovative with that. And somebody who I'm going to use as an example on this call who's done a really good job is Eden. It's really cool because I feel like over the last year, her brand has developed so strongly. If you scroll back on her social media on Instagram for like a year ago, your message was, I mean, you were still doing the things, you were still sharing, but it was more Beachbody Coach, and now it's more you. And you, like, I don't know if you want to share your progression with that, because we want to have that open conversation, but I just, like, you're like the perfect example to me of like how it's evolved.
Yeah, I think for me it was like really hard in the beginning. Like Kate had mentioned, what's so special about me, you know? And I think me personally, when I found this opportunity, I was at a really low. So like, what was so special about me? You know, it was really hard to think about those things and to think about relating to other people and like what that they would take away from me because I was so unhappy with myself. So at first it was just kind of like doing the things and modeling after others. And I didn't really have a brand, or I couldn't really think of it at the beginning. So like those exercises used to kind of drive me a little crazy. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I would sit down and do them and I'd be like, mother, like, I don't know. And so then over time I realized, you know, that like, and especially like what Amber was saying, that you do have to share parts of yourself that it can be a little vulnerable. I mean, obviously you have to be willing to share them or want to share them, but parts of yourself, and the more and more little things that I share, like, especially like Kate said, if you scroll back on my Instagram, like I found myself through the journey really. I mean, that was kind of my progression, is just like that, like just kind of like taking little tidbits and like figuring it out. But also like anytime there was a branding exercise, like Kate's like saying I should revisit it, I would, like any Diamond Dash I was in, I would redo it. And then I would learn like one new thing about me. And then I would take that one and add it or something like that. So I feel like that's kind of like where my progression came from. I don't know.
And also, like, just your posts got better. Like the things, the photos you were doing, your editing got better. And that's a big part of this too, is like your photos and what you're physically sharing has to evolve too. Like having good quality photos and things like that. And this is something that you're always going to have to learn and get better at. Social media is always changing. It's always going to keep moving forward. So you just have to be a part of that. And somebody else who has done a really good job, who's on this call, who I've been impressed with a lot lately, is Katie, who I feel like you've come into your brand a lot lately, or you've got more specific about it. And I know this is something you also were struggling with, and you just started sharing more different facets of your life, but also your photos got better, your posts got better, and you're like sharing more consistently. So I'm going to call you out too.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Eden in the sense of like there's taken just like time in the experience of being a coach. I've noticed like Eden's bio hasn't changed at all on her Instagram, and like I think that's super impressive because I feel like I change mine like every 2 months. And I think a lot of that for me was because too, I'm still trying to find like my brand. but then I'm also like every picture I post, I have like a drink in my hand. And so like I've kind of gone with the like over caffeinated cat mom, because that's like my life. So it's, I realized that and I was like, okay, that's kind of something like always there. And like people like, maybe I don't notice off the bat, but like people start to pay attention and that's why they follow you. And then I too, like, I don't know, I really appreciate other people's feedback. And so like, if like, I know one of the things with this, when you said like branding exercise, like I would love if, I don't even know, if we could start like a thread in like the team page or something where we could like check out each other's social medias and like give in it, like, hey, you look like a so-and-so person, or like you're giving off this vibe. My computer just joined on the other one. So something like that, because I appreciate people's feedback like that as well. So, but yeah, I think it's just a growth process. I'm still learning. I still feel like so often I don't know what my brand is. But I'm just trying to be like me, if that makes sense. And so I think it's once you become more comfortable with yourself, you kind of learn those traits a little bit more, to share with people.
But one thing I think that goes back to that too, and I just noticed from you guys, is like your confidence has grown, and that goes back to the vital behaviors. So if you're struggling with like your branding, I really want you to also focus on the vital behaviors, because that's always something to share about, and that's always something to go back to and make it your own. But also, if you're not doing your personal development, you're going to struggle with like your message. If you're not doing your workouts, you're not going to feel as confident. If you're not drinking your Shakeology, like your insights aren't as good, and you're just like, you don't have those things to share about. So I think that's important too, to make sure you're going back to those things, those basics, those vital behaviors, because that ties into this so much.
I'm not going to call anyone out like specifically, but I do, because Kate always does that. And I want everyone to talk, but I want you guys to like step up and talk if you want to. But I have been trying really hard to watch more of my own PS coaches. Or I would look at all of your stories, but I try to remember to look at my PS coaches more, like the stories, because I feel like sometimes we get so in this rut, me included, where we are like, okay, I got to like share about the challenge group. And I got to like, you're like thinking kind of, it becomes unintentionally cookie cutter. And the way to really get clear with your voice, I say it all the time, but like talk more on your stories. Like let your weirdness shine through. Let your, like, I love, like there's people that I've followed on social media, and then they might throw in a video here or there. And then I've noticed that some people have been doing that, where there's also sometimes they'll share those stories, like save a clip and actually make it like a post. And then I find that I'm so much more drawn to people when I can like see them talking and like hear them explain it in their own words. And that's how you're going to find your people. And I've gotten so much better at it with practice. Like it's going to be awkward and weird. It always is. But I know that we could all do more of that. Like, and even I gave the example to my Team Cup team the other day, where I was like, didn't have much to share today, but I just shared, like, I walked through my smoothie. I talked about how I made my Shakeology, which is like the same freaking Shakeology I've been making basically for like 4 years. But maybe there was some new eyes on me that day, or, but it's like kind of just remembering sometimes the mundane, boring thing that you're doing right then, like your workout or your shake or whatever, like could be just, even if you're just, I don't know, even if there's like something silly happens like during the recording, keep it, post it, like it, just keep it real. And I think that's the more you practice, the more like you shines through. And then that might also make posting easier. Yeah. And it's gone in 24 hours. So I just feel like it's such an underused tool. And I know it can be hard. I have days where I don't feel like doing it. And then I have days where I'm like, whoa, chill. How many stories am I going to post today? But I just feel like I connect with more people that way, when they can like hear me talk about stuff.
And I think what's important too is you'll definitely see people's stories who are more like curated and they're perfect. And then you see people who are more of like, and those I like to think are more type A people, and I'm definitely not a type A person. I can be about certain things, but like overall, my life is a mess all the time. Even when it's not a mess, it's like a mess. And so when I talk and like I show people, and half the time my cats are crashing into things or fighting or like whatever, or I drop something, like my stories get really weird, or I go off on a tangent, or I'm dancing, or just something stupid happens. But those are the things that people can relate to. And remember, like, people curate it as pretty, and I definitely do that for things like trips, or if I'm specifically talking about like the coaching opportunity, and if I want to have like a series of like pretty stories talking about a challenge group or something. But like, reality is your life isn't going to be perfect, and people, I think, are really tired of seeing the highlight reel, and it's just a great way to connect with people. And again, it's going to be awkward, it's going to feel weird, but the more you do it, the better that you get at it. So, and it's something I have to do more too.
And thinking about, Era, like what you said about how do I talk about it so people can I talk? How do I talk about it in a way to get people to join me and not go join the gym or whatever? And I feel like and I was looking at your posts and your stories and stuff, and I feel like you do a really good job of like showing about like the products and stuff, and like, oh, I worked out and I had an accountability partner that I worked out with. And like, that is all awesome, because you want to be, how is it different than the gym? Like, how is it different? You get that community. But I think it's like sticking with it, and that consistency will add up. But also, I had a point. Sorry. I had a point that I was going to get to. Shoot. My brain doesn't work anymore.
Like a call to action? Like more call to action?
But I was like, I had a good thought, because I was like, how is it different than the gym? I don't know. I guess if you're talking on your stories and you're talking about real life stuff, and you're talking about how, I don't know everyone's different, but whether it's that you are tired, the weather isn't good, or you have kids and you don't have a sitter. So you could talk about more, like, not only are you doing the workouts at home, but you could talk more about like handling objections in those like stories too. Like, I don't know, in Chicago, the weather sucks. You could talk about how it's like super cold, and how you probably already do that, but just talking about it again and again and again, and comparing and contrasting why it's, easier and than going to the gym. So I think sometimes in our stories, I can't make this thought come out properly, but like, sometimes I don't have like a game plan, but I'm like, okay, well, not right now because I'm not working out, but say it's like the end of the day and I don't feel like working out. I just get on my stories and I'm like, okay, I'm going to work out. I don't feel like doing it. I had a long day, but I'm going to do this. And then I show everyone that I did it. And then afterwards I talk about how great it is that I did it. So it's okay. So that kind of is a way of like showing my accountability, but also showing like a real life situation and it's also relatable. So I think it's just kind of not just showing up and doing the workout, but also talking about why it's better than other ways to. Does that make any sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, like ways to add value. Talking about ways that it can add value to your life. And like, one thing I think about this morning, so one of my challengers who like was really on it, and then she went MIA for a few months, and now she's like back. She was just like, I just wanted to get real. I bought, like, when I went MIA, it was like December or November, and I bought a gym membership, and I spent a lot of money telling myself I was going to go to the gym, but to be honest, I never went to the gym. And she just admitted that she wasted $400 on a gym membership that she never used, and now she's back with like, and she never canceled her bod, but now she's doing a program and recommitted and feeling so amazing. So I mean, talking to those people and making sure, like, I was never the girl who felt comfortable in the gym setting. Now, because I know what I'm doing more, and I know we can take these workouts to the gym, and I've done that. But like in the beginning of my fitness journey, I didn't feel comfortable being at the gym. And I still don't like it. I like prefer working out at home. So it's like talking about those little things, because there are so many people out there. Or like for me, when I'm having a really high anxiety day, I don't want to freaking leave the house. I don't want to deal with people. And there are so many people who deal with like anxiety, depression, and like different things, and like different reasons why this is so amazing. So I think it's just finding ways to add value, and just different ways of like doing that and connecting with those people. I feel like you were going back to adding value with that, Amber. I feel like that's what you were like, your overall, but I like the way you said it. So I just want to encourage you guys, like, you can open up and talk, but like, reassess your why and your message and get clear about what message you want to put out there, what message you want to send. Again, like, you know what you're promoting. We're promoting the same thing every single month. You're going to change up your messaging a little bit. You're going to change the way you're talking about it, but you need to like know what you're promoting, who you're talking to, who you want to connect with, and what differentiates you. And everybody has that unique part of your story. Even if we feel like it's mundane, or even if we feel like we're boring, like it's like finding those little parts of you. And those are the things that are relatable to other people. Like the thing that I haven't talked about my anxiety in a long time, but like talking about my anxiety and not wanting to deal with people, and like having the option of working from home when I really don't want to freaking deal with people, or working out at home because I'm still combating my anxiety and I'm working on myself by eating well and all of those things that I don't have to worry about dealing with people. But figure out like what your brand and like what your message means to you and how to put it out there. And one thing that I think is really helpful too is like that branding exercise by Katie Hefner, but like going out on Instagram and finding other brands and people who you connect with who aren't coaches. So have coaches who like you look up to. And one thing that I love is that Instagram has that feature of like, you can go to save and you can create little boards. It's basically like Pinterest and nobody sees it but you. I have so many little boards that like, if you go to somebody's post, you can go save and you can save too and create little boards. So I have like pages that inspire me. I have things that I want to grab. Like I have some that are like posts and it's like fitness, health, and some coaches for like post inspo. I have outfit inspo. I have like picture pose inspo. I have so many freaking boards on there. It's ridiculous. And if we go on a trip together, I will pull out those boards and I'm like, when we're taking a picture, I'm like, but this is how we're going to do it. I want to recreate this photo. But those boards are really helpful, especially because you can use those to like find that inspiration. And especially from brands, from people who aren't coaches, it's great because that helps you find that uniqueness and people who are successful with Instagram, because that's who you want to emulate. Are people who have built successful brands and find those key parts that you can make your own. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to share? And a big part of that is sharing you. So I know that's like really scary and I know it's not fun. And there's definitely days where I don't freaking want to take selfies and I don't want to show up and to show my face. But first and foremost, you are your brand and people want to see you. They want to see your, in a non-creepy way, like they want to see your body. They want to see like what you look like and how they relate to you. So many times when I share transformations or like myself, people are like, oh my gosh, you're my body type. And I look at them and I'm like, oh, I didn't necessarily see that, but that's what they relate to. So I think like finding those things and like showing yourself is the biggest part of this too. And it doesn't make you a narcissist and it doesn't make you vain or weird for like showing yourself. It just makes you a person who's building a business, and your business is your body, your business is your health and fitness, and your business is your face. And that's what people relate to.
I guess I do have a question real quick. Because we were talking about sharing on our stories and stuff like that. And I am very appreciative of the insight you gave me, Amber. I just want to know if you think I should speak more, because I started doing like little writing blurbs, because I've noticed that people just forward the more I talk. So I guess I just want to know if it'd be better to talk more based on what you're saying, or
okay, I'm gonna try to talk, which is fussy. I think it's a good idea to do a mixture. So sometimes like I'll do a stream of talking and I'm like, that's too long. I need to redo that, make it shorter. Maybe make it like 4 clips or something. I know that it doesn't, but it just like doesn't matter, because if someone's like at work or something, they're probably not going to listen. Like they're more likely to read. Or they, like when I was at the salon, I never had it on audio. Like I was like always looking at stories, but never listening. I listen when I'm at home alone, but if you're like scrolling next to your partner, you're probably not like blasting it either. So I think it's a good idea to do both. I try to keep my message. I do go on rants, but I do try to keep my message to like shorter like snippets. And then I try to do some like text on top of that as well. Cause then I think maybe someone might pay attention or slow down or go back. But I know that people don't, I just think it's a good idea to do both. Like talk so people hear your voice, but also just keep doing the texting or the text stuff, because you're going to always have people that are, it's like going to be a mixture. And I've had people where I like talk about something in my story and then they still, I can tell they didn't listen because they like messaged me and asked me, or they didn't get there yet. Like I can't think of an example, but I was like talking about something and then it was probably something to do with like baby stuff, but like I in the story, it was like, oh, and I ordered nipple shields or something. And I got like 20 people being like, you should get nipple shields. And I'm like, I just said in the story how I ordered them. So I'm like, people don't listen, like they just listen to like part of it. And they're like, oh, I got the whole story. I got enough info. So I think it's just a good idea, like every day, to just do a mixture.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that's why it's also important to remember, like, you can't talk about things too often, even if we feel like we're talking about our stuff all the freaking time. Is the reality is people have other things going on, whether they're nursing a baby, whether they're working, whether like their family's in town. People always have stuff going on. And while we think like we may be annoying because we're sharing this so much, with the algorithms and people's busy lives, like people don't pay that much attention to us. So it's important to make sure you're constantly sharing, to like work past people not paying attention, and also making sure when you are sharing it, like your posts are scroll stopping, or ways to like get people's attention. No, go.
Over time. So when I used to talk a lot and I wouldn't add like as much text, and then I switched to more text and stuff like that. And I kind of found my balance as like, if I'm talking about something that I think is important that I want people to listen to, then I put text at the bottom, essentially repeating what I'm actually saying. Yeah. And that's the combination that works best for me. So like if I'm talking about fruit punch energize, like at the bottom it would be like the flavors in it, or like, no whatever, like, and then people, that combination of things, I get a better like communication with them and stuff like that when you do it that way, or that's what I've noticed.
And you can even say like sound on, like I've done that too. Like they have the little like gifts or whatever. So I like to do a combination of like text, especially for those key points. But people will still message you like said and be like, you should do this, or what's this? And you're like, I literally said this in my, or like you got this far in my stories and I mentioned this 3 times. Or I mentioned it in it's like so funny. I still get it all the time. And I'm like, it was in my last story. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I also, I watch Amy's stories a lot, and she posts a lot, like in a day. And I think it was yesterday, she was announcing like a sale they're doing. And she was like, wait for the announcement. Like she wrote that. And then I totally found myself like tuned in and didn't like swipe away. Cause I was like, what's the announcement? Like it made me want to like stay. Even though I was like, she's not talking to me, but I found that like made me stick around. And there is a way, you can't see who's switching or swiping away from your stories, but I think in the Kate, isn't there a way to see how many people did? It won't say like who did, but it'll say how many people didn't continue watching your stories, right? Isn't it like in the insights?
I think it is.
I thought I saw, I don't know. I think you have to be a business account though. Like you have to link your Facebook and be a business account. And then I think you can go into insights and it'll just say, I remember seeing it before, and then it wasn't that helpful for me. I was like, oh, okay, I guess a certain amount of people didn't continue watching, but I didn't say who. If it said who, then I would be sad, and I don't want to know that anyways.
I mean, I definitely, when I have like a lot of stories, it'll be like 2,000 people viewed, then like 1,100, or like there will be like significant gap. I'm like, well, shoot, like that many people didn't continue on, and I get butthurt. But I'm just like, whatever, that's a stupid thing to get butthurt about. I'm just gonna keep talking, and if people don't want to listen, then they don't need to listen.
Yeah, and I think it just really has to do with like where people are at that moment. Like sometimes I just find myself drawn into people's stories and I'm like, why am I watching this? Like what am I doing right now? Like, so I think sometimes you might have the same watchers all the time and then you might just get some randos in there. And so I think it just depends on that person's day. Like Kate said, we never know what people are going through. You know, they could just be having a really bad day and not be paying attention, or there might be a day where they're having a really good day and that's the day that they're going to sign up because they're ready. So you just don't know. You just have to like keep showing up and keep being consistent. And we say that all the time, just because you just never know when it's going to be the right moment for that person. And I always think back to why did I decide to reach out to Kate that day? Like, I don't even know why. You know, I'd seen a lot of her posts. I could have coach shopped. I could have looked around. There was something that day. I couldn't sign up fast enough. You know, I just like was ready. And I wasn't ready 3 days before. I wasn't ready, you know, like Kate had been like commenting and liking on my stuff for a while, a couple weeks. But for whatever reason, it was like, that was the day that I like could not stand my own skin, you know, like that feeling of you're just like, cannot sit one more second unhappy with where you're at. Like, you just don't know when you're going to talk to somebody or show up, you know, that day. You could just be like, show up in their feed right when they needed to see it.
I definitely like thinking about that. And I had that day with Amy too. And I don't remember when I reached out. I remember I had written a draft, like to email her multiple times and then deleted it. And the day it was just, I got like fed up. And then the day I decided, like, she had asked me to be a coach so many times and I said no. And it took just a really shitty day that I'll never forget. And it took me asking to be stepped down from my boss and being told I was a shitty manager to decide to like go for it. So you like never know what, like, but in the back of my head at that moment, I had Amy saying, you should be a coach, you should be a coach, you should be a coach. So while I was having one of the shittiest, most embarrassing like moments that I thought of my life back then, like I was just, Amy was loud in my head. Like that was what I heard. So I think that's also an important message and like thing to ask yourself is like, why did you reach out to your coach? What did you hear from them that you needed to hear? And how can you share that? And you can even make that into a post. I was thinking back today about how long I watched my coach or how, why I decided to do this. And I remembered my coach sharing X, Y, and Z, whatever reason. I know for Eden, there was me sharing about personal development and that sticks out in my head, and me sharing, I was like sitting outside. But like figure out those things of like what made you decide and share about that. You never know what resonates with people or how something very little. And there are certain things I remember I had a post that like really resonated with a lot of people about me sharing about a photo being taken of me and me automatically not wanting to delete that photo. When I saw that, like somebody take a photo of me and I looked at the photo and I didn't automatically freak out or want to delete it and I felt good about what I saw, like sharing that, like I remember I got multiple people signed up from that post because they could resonate with that feeling. So it's like finding those little feelings that may seem insignificant. Those are the things that people can really relate to. Anyone else? I think this was an awesome call though, so I'll get the recording up soon, and with the recording we'll also like share that Katie Hefner training. I'm totally down to start a thread in the team page of like social media like handles, and if people want to critique each other, like I think that's a big part of what we do too, is just giving each other honest feedback and knowing that it's not a jerk thing. And let me tell you, Amy's done it to me so many times, and every time it like I'm like even though now I know I like what I post, but like sometimes I remember in the beginning I was horrible. And so I remember asking for that feedback and being really nervous and not being sure how I would take that criticism, but knowing that it's only to better you and to help you grow. And that is a big part of this business, is being able to look at what you're doing and what you're sharing and how you can better yourself as a leader and as a business person and how you can grow. And a big part of this is social media. So yeah. But Yeah, we can do a thread. I know not everybody's, I mean, we can do one, there's Team TCB and we can do one in Team Live and Love, and anybody's always welcome to join Team Live and Love too. I know Amber doesn't add everybody because everybody's always saying you guys are overwhelmed with all the team pages, but you're always welcome to join whenever. We can start multiple threads. But I'll get the recording up. We'll share that avatar branding exercise, so everybody should do that. And even if you've done it before, just as a refresher, I'm going to do it too. But share those things because I think we can all benefit from it. And just know that whether you're just figuring out your brand or rebranding, this is something that you're going to revisit time and time again, and you're just going to grow with that. So thank you everybody for participating and showing up tonight. We had a really good call, and I'm glad we got to do this training. So thank you guys. Bye.